This is what Rohit Sharma said after this game. I really want you to keep this in your mind all the way through this. He didn't make runs here because they were low pressure. He didn't make runs here because the bowlers were bad. And he didn't even make runs here because the matchups favoured him more. Although that probably is the only thing that actually helps him a little bit. He made runs because every few innings in T20 cricket, Rohit Sharma makes runs.
This is the last knock. When was the first knock? Don't know.
Rohit can't crack the whip on himself to ensure that it's every game. All he can do is prepare for each match and then go out and hope his partner doesn't run him out, or try keep out some good balls and hope that when he's trying to smash a six that doesn't land in someone's hand on the wrong side of the padded triangle. That is what T20 batting is. Fail, fail, happy times. That's also pretty much what T20 cricket can be. For instance, how does everyone feel now about Afghanistan and India as teams? I would say that no better or worse than they were just a few hours ago, but the result will change people's minds. But India has only played 3 matches. Afghanistan have now beat 2 teams that are better than them and struggled against the other. This tournament is about the tyranny of small sample sizes, whether it be the West Indies, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, or India. All of these teams have been praised or chucked out after just such a small amount of results. And as I've said many times, this tournament is so random. Perhaps if we're lucky, a team like England or Pakistan could just be so much better than everyone else that it doesn't matter. But chances are the winner will come from some luck at the toss, or form, or drop chances, all the sorts of things that generally are involved in T20 victories. T20 is a sport designed to be really level. Each team has the same amount of possessions like basketball, baseball, or netball. And then we throw out 60% of the game to make it even more random. The best team will not always win. Weird stuff does happen. And when you are doing analysis, you need to be honest about all the factors that you can reasonably try and keep in your head to work out what has happened. As MS Dhoni would say, it's about the process. And I'm not talking about the people out there sharing the Indian choke memes about how they lose all the finals that I've been sent many times and don't care about. But I'm really talking to everyone who follows international cricket quite passionately or who follows T20. The best teams win around 66% of the time over a prolonged period. As Chennai proved to us just before the IPL finals, even the best team in this league can lose 3 in a row. But of course, the way that we follow international cricket doesn't really allow for that. And it's what makes this tournament a fun and dangerous thing. And let's just look at 2 players within this game. Rohit Sharma couldn't play left arm pace and should have been thrown away forever, according to many people. I will do a deeper dive on Rohit and left arm, but every team he goes up against knows his weakness. He's not suddenly become terrible at it. And yet, he still made a lot of runs. And earlier this year, I was talking about KL Rahul, and he had a form blip, and so many people wanted him binned forever. If KL Rahul isn't one of the best T20 batters in the last few years, what are we even doing here? And as for Rohit, just before this World Cup, he made 450s in 8 innings for India. And despite KL Rahul's weird form drop, in 12 innings before that, he scored under 25 only in once. These are exceptional batting talents, and if you don't believe me, go and survey the Afghanistani bowlers who everyone was talking up just a couple of days ago. Now, if a whole team had quality left-arm seam, you would expect Rohit's record to drop. Not from 35 to 0, but it would go down. And yes, he got out early to left-arm seam the other day, which is quite often when a lot of people go out to it. In fact, it's when most batters are dismissed early on. And in this game against Afghanistan, there were less left-arm seamers. But chances are, most games he won't face much left-arm seam outside of Namibia anyway. He can, and has, made runs against teams with left-arm seam before. But we just saw him go out to one, so he must be terrible. It's not quite always true. And it's the same with Afghanistan. There are a lot of people now who are going to be thinking, well, they're not as good as we thought they were. If anything is true, their last 2 games have probably had their best bowling attack. Although you might have wanted Mujib to be in there on his current form. But for a very, very long time, Afghanistan has been carried by their spinners. And now they've added HAMID HASSAN. In this game, he bowled his first 2 overs and they only went for 6 runs. Considering India would end up with over 200, that's quite the start. Just on its own, that's remarkable. But for HAMID, these were his 5th and 6th professional overs this year in any format of cricket. Last year, he almost got through 22 overs, and the year before it was 44. And in 2018, he didn't bowl a delivery. To bowl this little and to walk into a World Cup and deliver your first 2 overs against this kind of batting is a freakish effort. He has made them a stronger team. But they went up against the team who did better today. And Hamid's numbers end up looking a little bit worse because by the time he came back on, India were in full party mode. And they almost didn't get there. As I said in a previous video, India was like, one good Rashid Khan spell away from heading back home? He's been the best T20 bowler in the world for a very long time now. And so far in this tournament, no one has been able to hit him. Hell, Scotland could barely see him, Namibia held him off for survival like it was a test match, and Pakistan lost 2 wickets despite trying to be careful. And India did 3 important things with him. They dominated the other bowlers early on so that Afghanistan had to use him earlier than they would have wanted. Afghanistan always likes to hold him back for the second 10 overs. You know, kind of like the way in old monster movies they never used to actually show you the monster. But they couldn't do that because India got off to such a great start. And then Rohit Sharma attacked him, scoring more than half the runs from only 8 balls. A couple of fantastic sixes in that. Pant struggled and Rahul struggled, but because Rohit hit those sixes, it meant that India changed Afghanistan's game plan. And it allowed for the eventual massive total that they got. I mean, it is hard to score 200 when RASHID Khan takes 2 for 20 against you. And with him taking no wickets and going for runs, that's double party. It's party plus. And with India so far in front, they actually pushed the game further towards their favour by not sending in their batters in their assigned positions. India went instead with 2 very smart promotions. It would have been very easy to send Virat Kohli in. He is, checks notes, Virat Kohli. Or even Hardik Pandya when that first wicket fell. But they went with Rishabh Pant because he is a left-hander and because RASHID Khan still had an over left at that point. Now, Pant didn't look particularly good against RASHID Khan and he didn't really make any runs against him, but he also wasn't dismissed by him. And that allowed for when the second wicket happened for Hardik to come in to face the kind of bowling that he really wants to attack. He doesn't like leg spin. These two, Pant and Pandya, played their roles beautifully. And let's be honest, India also had Ravi Jadeja on the bench who's capable of a similar sort of thing. He never had to get off the chair. 2 promotions, 2 wins, and a very big total. Way beyond what I thought was possible for Afghanistan, unless India just bowled and fielded terribly. A few years ago I wrote about how this Afghanistan had a batting order that was made up of number 8s. Players who could hit, but ultimately, were a bit flawed. And their next evolution was always going to be batters, not hitters. And there are some players there with some good signs. But when you look at their first 4 games, you can see it's still a really even spread of runs. There's no bankable batters there. In this game, I think one player probably had to bat through to the 13th or the 14th over. India found it way too easy to regularly take wickets because Afghanistan still don't have the sort of batters like Rohit or Rahul. Mohammad Nabi is their top scorer in this tournament and he bats at 6 and 7. And I think this is really important to note. This was all true about Afghanistan before this game. And it will be true about them probably for the next couple of years until they sort this out. The same way that India's flaws are still true now as they were before they won this game. India can't just pick when they're going to be good. This format fluctuates wildly. Sometimes it's just really hard to get yourself back into games even if you're a good team. Bad tosses and due play a part, sometimes way too big a part, and losing games is just part of what happens. I think India is overly conservative with the bat at times. Their seam bowling is not completely locked in. I'm positive they're tired from all their time in the bubble, and like a few good teams, they seem to have a plague of bad form that's affecting them at the wrong time. But none of that is more true now than it was 24 hours ago. For both teams, Afghanistan is still a really good team with their flaws. And their match against New Zealand will end up being the most watched sporting event that those 2 nations will probably ever play. Afghanistan are still light on batters and there's still something going on with their team behind the scenes. And today their best bowler got hit, which is going to happen every now and again, meaning the opposition just went way beyond them with their total. As for India, they're still a flawed team with a lot of match winners. Them beating Afghanistan hasn't really changed anything other than, the points table. The most important thing, as basically Rohit said, is they wish they had done this performance in the first 2 games.